Hey, welcome back to the PTDU Playbook Podcast here with your hosts, Adam and Savannah. What we're going to talk about today is getting into follow-up. Everything follow-up based, whether it's, you went in your first doctor's office, how do you approach doing that? Whether it's maybe they sent you they're your first patient and you want to know, hey, what do I do now that they sent me a patient? How do you start going back into the office and using that into getting the bigger foot in the door? Or maybe three, you made a connection out in the community with another therapist and they've agreed to maybe send you some referrals or patients. How do you broach taking these next steps with getting into offices, following up on relationships, and while not being maybe too pushy or salesy and just trying to be present? Savannah, let's talk today.
Great. All right. I'm thrilled to dig into this because this is, other than patient care, it's the heartbeat of what we do and how you create your business. We're in a world full of noise. There's so many people that are coming into offices every single day that have so much to say, but not really a lot to share or things that are meaningful. So I think first things first, your consistency and your persistency and how you're showing up for these offices is what is going to set you aside from other people. The active marketing it's an art form. And so everything you're saying in there should kind of carry some type of weight or meaning, even if it's something simple, just like asking how they're doing in a way where you're actually listening. So you're practicing this follow-up as a true process and not just a one-off, because the process is really where you lock in and you create relationships that are going to be sustainable and continue to send patients, not just for a month or not just one patient, but consistency over an extended period of time.
Perfect. Let's go Q&A and I'm going to kind of lead it. Let's say, Savannah, hey, am I going in there too often? Is there such a thing as going into an office too often? And how do I know whether it is I got to go back next week or if I should cool off and wait a few weeks after we've already been in there once?
Yes, this process is very intuitive, but I can tell you that you're never going to be in there too much because I know that we're not going in there every single day. And even if you're going in every single day, if you had a reason or a patient or something to queue up on, then absolutely be in there every day. So I typically get a sense of how frequently I should be in there by what my goal is. If I have not received a referral yet from an office, you have to be in there every 2 to 3 weeks for something to click and for the habit of them, how they refer within their office, for the habit to change or evolve in that sense. So 2 to 3 weeks would be the bare minimum. Ideally, if you had all the time in the world, you'd be in there on a weekly basis until you get that first patient. And so your visits essentially want to ramp up at the beginning. And then as you start to get a consistent referral pattern from the office, they're in a good groove. You have a system in place with how you're receiving information from them and also providing information back to them. That's really where you're going to start to pull back the visits. But ultimately up front, your bare minimum is every 2 weeks. Let's go with that.
Yeah, I agree. And, let's say too, okay, maybe Savannah, hey, I didn't get a warm reception on my first visit. Do I go back? Or, like, so they still haven't sent me a patient. And my thought is, hey, they haven't sent you a patient, you still got nothing to lose. You go back in there a second time and maybe there's a different office staff person there. Maybe you still talk with that office staff, but try the referral coordinator is really nice. So that's what that maybe second visit does for you is, okay, maybe you got a little run-in with the office manager, but now you're going to try and talk with them and pivot right to the referral coordinator. And maybe they're very bubbly or personable and you can have that conversation. But let's go into Savannah. What if maybe you didn't get the warmest reception up front?
The first thing I always try to do is be reflective. So how did I show up? Was I nervous? Could they sense that I'm nervous? Because maybe they didn't have time for you being nervous that day. So I try to be reflective in the sense of like, okay, did I do everything right as far as how I've trained myself to show up in this office? If the answer is yes, you did everything right and it was truly just that person, well then take a second to kind of think, were they having a bad day? Like, did you just catch them on a time where they were doing 45 things and you just showed up and you just said, hey, how's it going? And they're like, really? I'm doing 45 million things. I'm the only person that works here. So you just have no idea where people's heads are at. So if you get a bad reception on the first visit, never chalk it up to anything personal or anything that has to do with that office. Get back in there. And don't use that as a precursor for how you're going to show up in the next visit. Go
Yeah.
in and show up exactly as you are and exactly with what your intentions are to provide good care for their patients. Remember, you're the asset. So carry that weight when you're walking in there, and don't let that one visit
Hmm.
rock you off your cool. Like, you've got
Yeah.
this. So don't lose
Yeah.
the confidence just because you had one bad visit.
I like that. And this is where the doors list is so important for all you therapists. Having that sheet on Excel, and this is where marking your notes down from the first visit,
Mhm.
whether it's, hey, you had this conversation or you spoke with that person, this is what you talked about, that always makes the second conversation easier. You can go back in then with the game plan based off what you talked about last time to break the ice and then go from there. That is where you're going to see a great, let's call it benefit going in there from the second time compared to the first. That's why you need to track. Whether it's, I put down the day and the time that I've been in there, who I spoke to, what we talked about, maybe how the conversation left off. Worst case scenario, this is where you put the day and the time you went in there. You try a different day and the time, maybe some difference there. If you're scared about going back in. But, like that being said, one, you shouldn't be scared. But then two, you have the data and the notes from your first visit to then make the second easier and then look what you're trying to get what you want, whether it's another conversation with someone else up the chain.
Precisely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that. Really, you can't base that one interaction off of how every other interaction is going to go. So show up as yourself authentically, have a mission or something you want to talk about, and then switch it up. If that was not a
Yeah.
good time for the office, if you came at 10 o'clock in the morning, 9 times out of 10, that was probably the busiest hour of the day. So maybe you flip flop, you go on a different day of the week or a different time, like you indicated, and you may have a better reception. And you may just speak to somebody else. And also, if you're not resonating with that initial person, maybe then you just take it a step further, a little bit more swiftly, and say, I'd love the opportunity to meet your practice manager. When is he or she available? So you reroute and try to get to somebody that might take you a little bit more intentionally or seriously.
Yes. All right, let's pivot to maybe we got a referral from the doctor's office. What does that follow-up sequence look like? One, do I go back into the office? Two, I love that. I'm a big handwritten note kind of guy, but then, writing down, doing some things like that. How do you then build on that follow-up after maybe you've received a referral?
I love that. So actually, maybe a mistake here, let's kind of talk about that too, would be, well, how do you prefer for me to follow up? I think in asking that, it kind of seems like you may not have a system in place that works well for all the other offices you work with. So typically I would say, I got to see your first patient. Everything went really great. Here's my brief synopsis. I typically call in and give you a brief overview of how the visit went. Of course, I'm going to fax in documentation. Outside of that, is there anything else I can do that would help your office in the process that we have working with this patient? So I typically say how I would do things and then ask, is there anything else I should do, or is that good? And I also like the handwritten. I mean, let's face it, a lot of the physicians that we're talking to, I mean, they're dealing with older people. And so there's something to be said about a handwritten touch. Like, it's something that's forgotten about in this day and age, and it really does work well. And even if it's just a simple thank you note, hey, I got to see my first patient from your office. The visit went great. Thanks so much for thinking of me for this particular patient. You couldn't have found a better fit, or however you want to word it. It takes 2 seconds, and the cards always resonate. So I
Yeah.
definitely love that for any, like, first referral, second referral, fifth referral, whatever it is. You could write one every single patient, and it's never going to get old.
The reason I love cards is twofold. One, it's the just act of doing it that they really appreciate. But then secondly, let's say you go into the office and you have a card and the provider's not there, you guarantee that they're going to see, or know that you were in the office because you are giving them, let's call it a gift or, whatever you want to call it, that they're going to end up opening and then seeing. So even if they're not there for you to give it to them, one, it shows your appreciation, and secondly, they will know that you were there because obviously they're going to get something they're going to open. So you
I
said
love that point.
whether it's your first patient, whether it's fifth patient, 50th patient, you can't go wrong. It can only be a positive. Trying to get back in there, whether it's as soon as possible, whether it's on your progress visit, discharge. These are just extra excuses to go back in and have something to talk about. Because that's what everyone's always nervous about in marketing. You say, what do I talk about? And having a patient is the exact easiest thing that, we feel most comfortable as healthcare providers, just talking about patients, marketing is something we learn on the side, but we like to talk about patients and how they're doing. So what better way to then go back in on the patient that they sent your way and have that conversation?
You've had to think the whole time of what to say, and then you finally have the patient. So I love that. It's a really good point, because now you, like, this is the moment you've been waiting for. You've been waiting to tell them and show up, like, how great you are and the kind of care you provide and the things you may have noticed in that patient's home that the doctor was not aware of. So all those little things really, they make such a big difference. And I cannot stress enough, I really love the point that you just made, Adam. I don't know why I didn't even think of it, but like, as we're having this conversation, but things oftentimes do not get carried back to the provider, do not get relayed to the provider. People love to just gatekeep information at the front. Oh, can you send this to the provider? Sure, we'll do. They throw it right in the trash can, or sure, we'll do. But if you write the doctor's name on that card, that is going to end up on that desk. The plan of care might not even land on the desk. Maybe they just are viewing on their computer and do an electronic signature and fax it back out, but guaranteed they're going to open up that card.
Mm-hmm. And let me go back to the Q&A here. Savannah, after they sent me, do I go back in and then ask for more patients, or what do I, what's that conversation look like? Am I just thanking them and kind of ending it, or do I double down and try and say, hey, if you'd like to send me more, great, you can take it?
I try to move away from the ask and more towards the emulation. I loved working with your first patient. I can't wait to see more of them. Send me those gait and balance patients, or like, say it in a way you're expecting it. You're getting more patients just by how well you did on that first case. So you always put it in a way that's not like, oh, I'd love the opportunity for you to send me more patients. It's like, okay, great. But you don't need that opportunity. You already had your opportunity. You aced it. And now you have a relationship. They trust you. They're going to send you more patients. So kind of fit that bill.
Yes. And it goes back to the conversations that you have at the front desk, my referral coordinator. I'm not asking for permission. I'm not saying, hey, can I please talk with her? I say, hey, where is so-and-so? Who is the person I talk to? It's not, may I treat your patients? Can I treat some more of your patients? I love what you said. It's, I'm going to crush it. You keep sending more of these gay patients, they're all going to love you, doctor. Because you send them my way. You can even joke around with it. And that's where you feel comfortable and confident in yourself, and you can read the room a little bit. You can have some of that playful talk going back in.
Yes. And those are also the moments too where you can drop a little bit of like, and don't forget, I do lymphedema too, or like whatever you do that is your little specialty that maybe that patient wasn't your specialty. So it's a moment to relate and then kind of throw another little nugget.
Yeah. Perfect. I love that. Let's do one more on maybe not providers, but let's talk about maybe just relationships in general, whether, hey, I met so-and-so at this event or that event, and we had a good conversation. They'd say, hey, I'd love to send you patients, something like that, whether it's a provider, whether it's a friend, so-and-so in the healthcare community, you established a connection and you had an initial conversation, and then now what?
Yes. The same applied. Your follow-up with that person, one is either the same day or the following day, because you want them to know that you appreciated the relationship, you appreciate the opportunity to work with them, and you remembered them, just like you want them to remember you. And then your follow-up is going to be just as consistent as you would if you were dropping into a physical, like, brick and mortar spot. So you want to follow up every 2 weeks. You are not being annoying. People forget. I can't even tell you. I mean, from somebody that has spent days where I'm visiting 20 to 30 places in one day, and I get a text from somebody that I work with on a regular basis, like, the people that text me the most and remind me and keep sending their business card are the people that I remember. So you can't do too much. Like, keep layering the visits until they're like, if you have somebody who's like, I get it, I know exactly what you do, and they repeat everything back to you, then maybe you can drop off from the biweekly. But until then, you're biweekly. And that's really what's going to build the consistency. Again, like, it's not just being persistent in a way that you're just repeating the same information. It's a reminder that you're here and a reminder that you remember them. So it's not just about you. It's about, like, building that relationship.
100%. And I love the point you said where the people who kind of nudge you the most, the ones you remember. And we all have busy. We all have lives. We all have work, family, personal lives, etc. And you may think you're bothering someone, but they maybe haven't thought about you. But that's where that follow up and that consistency is key, because we're all in our own heads. We're all living our own lives, and that's where squeaky, whatever it's called, squeak wheel gets the grease, whatever that
Mm-hmm.
phrase is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I always go from the sense of providing value to. Let's say you establish a connection with someone. I always like to try and give first, and that's never a bad spot. So if you had a conversation with some provider and they told you they do this or that, you told them what you do. I like to say, hey, I know you do this. Have you ever thought about this? Or I actually know someone that could do X, Y, or Z for you. I think any relationship, if you start by giving, you're always going to get off on the right foot and deepen that, as opposed to making the first ask, like I said, whether it's someone you're just meeting.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, I guess to give an example, I met someone last week that does, what are they, like a care manager. And so this care manager, when I shot her an email, well, first I texted her immediately after I met. I said, it was so great to meet you in Dr. So-and-so's office. I'd love the chance to work with you. Like, let's stay in touch. So then I emailed her, a week later, and essentially just explained, hey, it was great to meet you in Dr. So-and-so's office. I remember everything that you do. I took a look at your website. It looks amazing. By the way, this is what I do just in case you need a breakdown. So again, it's like address that you recognize what they do, and that if you have patients or you have someone that fits the bill for them, that you're looking to get back to them, because this is symbiotic. So I
Yeah,
express the symbiosis in the relationship, and then again, it was great to meet you. I'm sure I'll catch you, wherever I catch you. So yeah, it really. We can't do enough as far as the follow up. That's how relationships are. Um,
100%. It's the relationship business, and that's where you get the chance to use your clinical skills because of the relationships you make. Like I said, driving the referrals in the business for yourself is all around being able to nurture these relationships, build them. So then they become easier to maintain, obviously, down the line, and then you're on a really good basis because you guys have provided
yes.
so much value to each other. You're helping their patients, they're sending the patients to you, etc. So much value has been exchanged that a lot of people don't like to stop those relationships, and that's why it becomes easier down the line. But it's always like you got to water those consistently first, and then you got to do a lot of work for each other first. But then down the line, that's when it becomes a lot easier, and that's what you have to get to. And it's tough to see at the start. It seems so far away because you're out there, you're pounding pavement, you're doing your thing. But promise you, it's there. It's down the road. It's coming. But you never get the chance to see it if you let it die early and you stop going, or you take 3-4 weeks in between visits. You will always start from ground zero, and they'd be like, this wasn't for me. When that's not the case, it just wasn't for you with the effort that you put in.
Yes. Yeah. And it's really not, it seems so daunting, but it's not that much. It's just showing up consistently, having your system in place with how
Mhm.
frequently you're going to go in and layer the visits, layer the work. It's going to show up for you because these doctors have the need for you. So it's all right place at the right time.
Amen. Perfect. Well, thanks for chatting, Savannah. You're
Absolutely.
you're a physical therapist, occupational therapist in the state of Florida, looking to grow, looking to build your mobile caseload. Hit a link in the description below. We'd love to chat with you and have a good conversation. But thank you. Until next week. Now you know everything about follow up, whether it's going to an office after getting your first patient, having another provider that you made friends with. Now you know what to do, and it's time to get out there.
And if you're questioning it, the answer is do it. Send the text. Go visit. Yes.